Welcome to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar, and great to have you with us. All right, Anthony, can you hear us okay? All right, social media friends, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty, so we are working on it. We're talking about trigeminal neuralgia tonight, and we'll be back with you in just a second. Welcome to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar, and super excited to be in the studio with Jaden. Sorry for the technical issues. We're talking tonight about trigeminal neuralgia, and that's much more painful than this mess we're dealing with here on with our technical difficulties. Anyway, trigeminal neuralgia is a really, really painful condition. If you stroke your cheek, anything you feel touching your cheek is carried by the trigeminal nerve. And if you've ever bit into amalgam fillings and had a zing shoot through your face into your eyeball, that's what it feels like when you are dealing with a trigeminal neuralgia episode. So we've got lots of cool stuff tonight. We've got some real testimonials, some stories. A lot of times people are told when it comes to trigeminal neuralgia that there's nothing that can be done. And we're here to tell you tonight something very, very different. So Jaden, you in chiropractic school have started learning about cranial nerves, right?
Yes.
And the trigeminal nerve is one of the 12 cranial nerves, and it carries information, sensory information, back from the brain, or from the surface of the face to the brain. And that is one of the nerves that comes down out of the brain onto down by the brainstem, which is why upper cervical care can help so much. Now, traditionally, people will be told that the treatment options for that are significant amounts of medication, surgeries, and there's a condition or a procedure called a microvascular decompression. Vascular surgeons will do that. And last time I looked into that, it was not covered by the insurance. It wasn't FDA approved, anything like that. And so the people have to pay for that out of pocket. It's like $60,000 for this procedure. And the thing is, when somebody is suffering as much as they do with trigeminal neuralgia, they don't care. It's totally worth it for them to do anything that might be helpful. They can wrap the trigeminal nerve in Teflon tape, is what we've been told. And it's just, there's not a whole lot that they say can be done. So we're going to be taking your calls tonight, 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. And we're going to be talking about some real life scenarios where we've been able to help with trigeminal neuralgia. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. I'm with Jaden tonight, and she's doing a great job co-hosting. You know,
Thank you.
We started it to see if it would go well. We kind of were testing it to see how it would work with the with co-hosting, and the results, the information we got, the feedback we got, man, it was really, really cool. And so anyway, I feel like she's taking over, but I'm okay with that. And yeah, she's doing a great job. So
Thank you.
super excited to have you doing that. So Jaden, what has your, in your studies and what you're doing, what have your experiences been with people dealing with trigeminal neuralgia?
So this is also abbreviated to TN, so you don't have to say the long word.
Got it.
But for anyone who is dealing with trigeminal neuralgia, it is very painful. It's extremely painful. If anyone has ever had like a cavity and you take a bite of sugar or something really cold and you get like a zing, like a shooting, numbing, painful zing throughout your mouth, that's kind of what it feels like. For somebody who has trigeminal neuralgia, that doesn't go away. It stays like that constantly. So this is also called the suicide disease because people are told there's no solution. You have to deal with it. We can give you medicine. It may or may not help. It might make it better. Let's try. That's kind of what they're told and what, how they still have to deal with it. And so we cannot share enough about how if you get your nervous system checked and remove the interference from your brain, remove the interference to your brainstem and nervous system, allowing your body to work properly, that this can actually go away.
You are, you've had the privilege recently of working with an incredible coach, and his name is Greg Harden, and he's been working with collegiate athletes, professional athletes. University of Michigan has said he's been their secret weapon. Desmond Howard says he wouldn't have the Heisman Trophy without Greg Harden. He wrote a book called Stay Sane in an Insane World. And I'm thinking about this because there's a concept that he teaches, and that concept is to control the controllables, control what you can, right? So you have the privilege of working with him, and I'm jealous, but anyway, great, good for you. And I'm thinking about that with this trigeminal neuralgia situation, or really anything where people are told there's nothing that can be done. And so sometimes people say, well, that's just my lot in life. Nothing can be done. And then they don't do anything. But there are things you can still control. And if you pay attention to those and you work on controlling those, the results are much better. So in this situation with trigeminal neuralgia, TN, really, really horrific facial pain, there are some things you can control. Jaden, in your experience, what are some things that you have seen people be able to control?
I would say that you can control. There are a lot of things that you can control. If we're talking about healthcare, you can control the provider, like the office that you choose to see.
Yep.
You can control when you go there, like when you choose to go there, or lots of things you can control.
What about when people are told this, you have to do this, like drugs and surgery are your only option, and you say, hey, that doesn't really fit. That doesn't fit with my mindset. That doesn't fit with my philosophy. That's not what I want. You can control whether those people get to stay on your team or not. Right?
Right.
If you say trigeminal neuralgia or whatever is a mechanical problem with pressure on these nerves, it doesn't make sense to me that I should fix it with, you know, altering my environment chemically.
Right.
And if people say, well, that, that's the only thing you can do, it's up to you whether you're going to continue having people that you disagree with on your team. I can't tell you the number of times people come in and say, I went to my doctor, I went to so-and-so, and they said I have to do this, and I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to do stuff. And I say, well, nobody said you had to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know where we learned that. Maybe it's an authority thing, where we learn you have to do what you're told and be a good kid or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's got to fit. What you're being told you need to do has to fit with what your expectations are, has to fit with what you want, and has to fit with the results you want. Otherwise, it's not the right choice. So there is a story about a gentleman named James Tomasi, and he's written a book. We're going to talk about that, so don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. Jaden's in studio with me tonight. We are rocking it out. We're talking about trigeminal neuralgia. And trigeminal neuralgia is a really, really, really crappy, painful neurological condition. And it's called a suicide disease because more people commit suicide with trigeminal neuralgia than with any other condition, according to research. I don't know how they track that, but anyway, that's what we're told. So we're going to share a couple different stories, but I want to first, we're going to take a caller. We've got Bonnie on the line. Bonnie, welcome to your weekly checkup.
Hi.
Hey, thank
Glad
you
to
for
be here.
calling. Well, we're glad to have you. Jaden Jaden was so excited when she saw that you had called in, and so I've got to calm her down because she's excited.
She's wonderful.
Thank you.
I agree. So, Miss Bonnie, you have had a trigeminal neuralgia or TN diagnosis for a while. Will you tell our listeners how that came about, what you were experiencing, who told you you had that, just kind of that preliminary part of your story?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've had this for over 20 years, and it started out, it felt like I had a bruise under my nose, and because every time I touched it, this ache would radiate, and I was starting to get worried, so I went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and he right away picked up on where the pain was, and he had me go in for an MRI, and it really didn't show anything until he said he diagnosed the trigeminal neuralgia. And then he set me on a course of medications, the seizure medications like gabapentin and everything. And it it would work for a little while, but it just wasn't, giving me any relief. So I did a lot of research, and a lot of the research pointed to upper cervical chiropractic. And so that's kind of how I found my way to you.
That's interesting. So a lot of times we talk to people that are dealing with TN, and they said, I didn't find anything about it, but some people in a support group told me, something like that. All right. So you looked into finding upper cervical care, and then was ours the first office you tried with that? Did you try others first?
I did. I tried a couple other offices for Trigeminal, and they were very nice, and it was okay, but I wasn't getting any long-term relief. It was kind of like, it would always come back, and it was just kind of frustrating. And I was starting to think, well, maybe this wouldn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then my neurologist diagnosed it as type 2 trigeminal neuralgia, which is different from type 1, which is the electric shock through your face.
Mm-hmm.
But type 2 is a chronic ache all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just getting frustrated. And then I thought, well, I'll keep trying upper cervical. And then I came across your website, and I thought, let's give it another go. And I am so glad I did.
Mm. So it's been a few years. You've been a part of the family for a while. So what was your experience like? So imagine there's somebody listening, and they are thinking, wow, that'd be cool if it worked. It probably wouldn't work for me. Sometimes people just think that, unfortunately, right away. What would you say to somebody listening, like as far as what your experience was, if you were describing it to somebody listening for the first time?
Well, after your diagnosis, doctors are going to want to either give you a lot of medication or try one of the more really invasive type of, treatments, which damage the nerve. So when I decided to come to you, I would tell people that you are very educational, because you told me that too often people expect an automatic, cure. And so you let me, you told me about the whole process and how it's almost like people would go in and put braces on their teeth, but they wouldn't expect their teeth to be straight the next week.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, this is going to take a little bit of time, one adjustment at a time. And you explained it. My spine needs to understand and hold the adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not used to being that way. So that was really an educational point for me. And so every time I would come in and see you, it would feel a little bit better. But then, as you told me, the next week, it's not going to go away overnight. You'll see some improvement, but your spine still isn't holding that adjustment like it should.
Mm-hmm.
So little by little, it started getting better, and the major pain started going away. The real annoying pain started going away, and so I think I told you last time I saw you, for the last 4 weeks, I have not had any pain, no headaches, no, constant aching behind my eye, no pain medication. So I'm a believer.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So when people hear about upper cervical care, they hear about chiropractors or chiropractics or choir practice. We've heard it all. Sometimes people will say, well, whoa. I'm really afraid I'm not going to have I don't want to have my neck adjusted. And that's, I understand that concern or fear. Is there anything forceful, painful, any concerns that you've had in your experience with getting adjusted in the upper neck?
Oh, not at all. In fact, it's very gentle, and you explained it. You said, it might seem like I'm not doing anything at all,
Mm-hmm.
but you are, and it's very gentle. Oh my goodness, it's like getting a neck massage a little bit sometimes. But as soon as I'm done with the adjustment, I can tell in the difference. Just all kinds of, there's a release of pressure. I can move my neck. It doesn't crunch. So yeah, it's very gentle and very effective.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Jaden, do you have any questions for Miss Bonnie? Anything come to mind? Anything that you were so excited when you saw she was on here, so I feel like you probably have a question, but it's okay if you don't.
My question would be, how did you feel, if you remember, when you were told that, after being told there's not really a solution, and then hearing,
Mhm.
we have a solution, we know how to help you,
That's
how
a
to
great
fix
question.
it?
Um, at first, I was skeptical, and it's like, okay, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
But your office was so supportive. It was kind of like you believed when I wasn't sure what I wanted to believe.
Mm.
You made sure that I understood. You made sure that, that I was telling you, when I was in pain. If I was in pain, your office, would get me in for another adjustment. So yeah, I became a believer. I really did.
That's awesome. We, we say things like we go with science and we, use data, we do nerve scans because we can't change what we don't measure. But it's so uncommon, unfortunately, it's so uncommon for people to I feel like the sometimes contractors get they don't, like, you call somebody, you want them to do a bid, give you a bid on some work at your house or something, and then you schedule a time and you come home from work to meet them, and then they don't show up and they don't call and you can't get a hold of anyone, and you think, what in the world is going on? And you think it's not supposed to be like that, and then you check with your friends and they go, oh gosh, that's so normal, that happens all the time. And then there are contractors who are 5 minutes early and they confirm before they get there and they're a pleasure to work with, and it's like, it feels so rare, yet in their minds they're like, isn't that the way it's supposed to be? And so for us, we say the same thing, like, hey, we've got to check your nerve system. We have to make sure it's functioning well. We have to pair that with this other data. We have to have technology that tells us what's going on. And, we're in the bubble, so we don't, that's just what we know. And then people will say over and over and over and over again, nobody's done that before. Nobody's explained it that way, or nope. And we kind of just shake our head like, I don't know why. I don't feel like we've cracked the code for anything. I just feel like we do what we would want done for our family members. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's what I thought of when you said that.
Well, I do because your whole office is very educational, which is very reassuring to patients. It really is. Your office does what it says it's going to do, and it's very comforting and very very calming environment too. So you have because of all that, and because you educate the patients, that's very reassuring. It is. And so so I think I was very confident, which I think helped in the treatment.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And then, was there anything else aside from an adjustment that you were doing or using within the office to help on those days that you noticed the pain?
Yeah, I started using your laser, and actually, I think, to be honest with you, that's what hastened the no more headaches.
Mm.
The combination of the adjustments and then the laser. Because it was shortly after that I'm thinking, wow, I really feel good.
That's really cool. Yeah, that has been.
And you have
Go ahead.
oh, you have so many options within your office, so many other treatments beyond the adjustment.
Yeah, we try to make it a comprehensive approach. We've got to unpinch the nerves. We can use laser to help facilitate that soft tissue healing and repair, so that speeds it up. And we do some stem cell work. There are some other things that we can do for that. Well, Miss Bonnie, we appreciate you sharing your story. That's really cool of you to do that. I know there are people listening, and they're receiving hope tonight because they've been told nothing can be done, and you're saying, yeah, I was told that, but there actually are some things that can be done. So that's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Any final thoughts before you sign off?
Well, I will encourage anybody to try upper cervical, especially your office, because you gave me my life back. It's amazing. Having trigeminal, it's like you're carrying this weight around because you always have a pain, and now it's like, wow, I forgot what it's like to feel good. So thank you.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, and we'll see you really soon. Thank you for calling in.
Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
If you're just tuning in, this is your weekly checkup with Dr. Lazar, also hosted by Jaden Lazar, and she's showing me up, but that's cool. That's really cool. If you're joining us on social, thank you for being on social. I see Laura on there. Thank you for saying hello on there. We appreciate that. We're talking about trigeminal neuralgia, or TN, and that's facial pain. It can be behind the eye. A lot of times can be worse in the cold. Miss Bonnie was talking about feeling like she had a bruise underneath her nose. And so anywhere kind of mid face, eyes down to the upper lip and over to the side, that is the area where the trigeminal nerve, it's a cranial nerve where that transmits information back to the brain. And so if a fly lands on your face or a mosquito, you could feel that because of the trigeminal nerve. We're going to take a short break. We'll take your calls live, 866-521-9355. Before we do, we want to let you know that if you're concerned about this, if you want to have your nervous system evaluated, we would love to give you the opportunity to do that. Now, we don't do the evaluation at no charge, but we do offer a complimentary consultation where you can come into our office in Ann Arbor. We do a 13-point posture check. You'll have a knee-to-knee consultation with one of our doctors. You can even meet Jaden if you're on a day, if you're in on a day that she's there, and we'll chat and see if we think you're a candidate for care. Our promise is this: if at any time we think we can't help you, we'll let you know that, and we'll help you find somebody who can. So you'll never waste your time in our office. Our number is 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. Jaden's in the studio, rocking it like a boss. We just talked to Miss Bonnie about her experience with trigeminal neuralgia. Janelle on social said, I love what Bonnie said about feeling good again. We often don't know just how bad we felt until we feel well and healthy again. Life changing. I agree, Janelle. I agree. And it's so cool to be able to see that and be part of that and witness that all the time. Miracles happen every day right in front of us, and we get to see that. It's very, very cool. So, Jaden, Miss Bonnie talked about using the laser, and laser has gotten a decent amount of buzz over the last couple of years about doing all kinds of different stuff. But basically, the kind we have in the office is a high intensity laser. It's a class 4 laser. So got to have special certifications to use that. It can burn things. So everybody that does that on our team is certified to do that. I think that's important to mention. And there are other facilities that offer laser therapy, but a lot of those are technician or nurse led, and ours is one of the only physician run laser service offerings that I'm aware of in Southeast Michigan. And so that's helpful because there are some things we can do to make sure that it's right and make sure you're getting what you need. So Jaden, you are really good at explaining what laser does in terms that aren't complicated. So if somebody's listening and they're saying, hey, that's neat to hear about this laser thing, but I don't know if that would help me. What is it that the laser does, and how would that help somebody potentially with trigeminal neuralgia or face pain?
Yes. So the specific laser that we have in our office improves healing up to 75% faster. So that's a big number if we're going out of 100. And what it does is it brings, in simple terms, it brings attention to the body where we're using the laser. And so it gets the body's attention, and then it gets working, and that's how it heals quicker. That's in simple terms.
Yeah. So as far as laser is concerned, it's a type of photobiomodulation, to use a non-simple term, but it's important to understand what it means. So photo means light. Bio is with the body. Biomodulation, so changing stuff within the body, the light is doing that. So what laser does, depending on the wavelength of the laser, ours has 4 different wavelengths. And so it can go in to the cell, into the mitochondria or the power plant of the cell, and it stimulates faster production of ATP, which is the fuel of a cell. And healing takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of resources. And so the cell is able to do that because mitochondrial production of ATP happens faster. It also gets red blood cells in the area, gets water out of the area. It literally helps speed up that inflammatory process. And like you were saying, Jaden, 75% is how much faster it goes. So it helps with scar tissue, it helps with inflammation. So you can imagine having damaged nerves or damaged soft tissue, the laser goes in and facilitates healing and repair, cellular repair, much, much faster. So that's how that works. And it's cool. It's cool. You're certified to do
Yes.
laser. And yeah, you've done laser and have helped a lot of people with that, which is really cool. We were talking earlier about James Tomasi. He has gone to be with the Lord, but before he did, he was a pastor and he was diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia. We actually had him on our show 12 years ago, probably. And he had this horrific amount of facial pain. And he was on 3 times the maximum dose you should have of this pain medicine. And he was just miserable. And he realized that he said in his story that he felt like God gave him permission to commit suicide. He was in so much pain. It was so miserable that he decided it was okay for him to end his life. He felt peace about that. So he rented a car so he didn't, mess up the family car. He rented a parking spot in a garage in Tulsa, in a parking garage in Tulsa. So nothing happened on his family's property or anything like that. He either purchased or had a handgun. I don't remember whether he purchased it or it already had it. And he scheduled an appointment with himself to commit suicide. He was going to shoot himself in a rented car in a parking garage in Tulsa, so his family wouldn't have to find him or anything like that. He talked about being on triple the dose of medication that you're supposed to be able to take, and how he just felt like a zombie all the time, but it wasn't touching the pain. And he would talk about how he would just lie on his bed with pillows rolled up against his face and just scream into these pillows because it was so painful. He was in so much pain. So he had planned his suicide, and he planned it for Tuesday at 5 p.m. And over the weekend, there was a radio show, and he heard about upper cervical care. Actually, he didn't. His wife, Rhonda, did. Heard about upper cervical care. And she called and made an appointment for her husband, James. She made it for the following Tuesday. So she gets back and is telling her husband, hey, I heard about this new doctor, this new type of thing. I've not heard of it before. It's upper cervical something or other. And I made you an appointment to go talk to this doctor. And he didn't want to steal hope from her. So he said, when's the appointment? And she said, it's Tuesday. And he asked, what time Tuesday? And she said 11 o'clock. So he realized he could still go to this appointment to appease his wife at 11 o'clock. He could make her happy that she tried to help. And then he could follow through with his plan to end his life at 5 p.m. that day on Tuesday. So he went in, he got these weird x-rays taken. X-rays got analyzed, and he was getting adjusted. Now, often we can't do the adjustment on the first visit because it takes a while to analyze, but in this scenario, he was able to be adjusted. And while he was being adjusted, very gently on the table, he noticed that his face pain went away for about 5 minutes. Now, it didn't stay away, it came back, but he thought, wait a minute, if this can go away for 5 minutes, maybe this can actually go away. Nothing else has taken it away. So this is interesting. So he canceled his suicide because he had hope that there could be something done. And over the next couple months of care, he had full resolution of trigeminal neuralgia, of his facial pain, got off all his medications. He retired from vocational ministry and decided to start an advocacy group for upper cervical care called Upper Cervical Advocates. He wrote a book called What Time Tuesday. We have that available in our office and would love to share that with you, because the hope that is offered through his story is absolutely incredible. So that book is called What Time Tuesday. I think you can order it anywhere online you want. We also have copies in our office, and we'd be happy to share those with you to see if that could help. Isn't that an incredible story?
That was just so sad listening to, but then to hear the huge impact that it made, not only for his life, but for his wife, and for now all these people who have heard his story and read his book.
Yeah. BJ Palmer, the developer of chiropractic, said, you never know how far-reaching something you might think, say, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And that's so true. We don't know. We won't know till we get to heaven what sort of impact there's been. But our prayer is that anytime this show airs, that the people that need to hear it. It's repodcasted, and we pray that people that need to hear that will hear it and they'll share it. If you're listening and you would be so kind as to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that always helps us reach people, and leave a review for our podcast. That helps us reach more people, and people deserve it. Suffering is optional, and we want to make sure that people are hearing that. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to your weekly checkup. I'm Dr. Lazar. Jaden's in studio with me. She's rocking it out. We talked to Miss Bonnie tonight about trigeminal neuralgia and her experience. We talked about James Tomasi. And Jaden, you were doing a great job explaining Lazar. And anything else you want to add about Lazar before we switch gears?
Yes. So a personal story about Lazar. So when I had my son Oliver, I was in labor what felt like forever. and then I needed to go in for a C-section after like 2.5 days of labor. And so I ended up having a C-section, and after that, Dr. Lazar, who most of you know is my dad,
What?
he brought the laser in this like big suitcase looking thing to the hospital, and he lasered my scar that night. And so he did it a couple times while I was still in the hospital. And for anybody who knows, after you give birth, there's like a 6-week period where you're not really supposed to do anything. You're supposed to take it easy. And then after a C-section, it is supposed to be minimum 8 weeks, sometimes more, that you can't do anything. You can't lift anything. You can't do steps. And because they want your incision to heal. And so when I was doing laser, I was cleared. I only did it a couple times, and I was cleared 4 weeks early by my obstetrician. And she said, wow, your scar looks great. You don't need to come back. You have no more restrictions. And so that was cool because I was like, yay, I can finally carry the car seat on my own. So that's like a personal win for me, I would say, with the laser, and one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it.
That's very cool. That's very cool. So 4 weeks early from a 6-week restriction means you had restrictions lifted at 2 weeks
Yes.
after having Oliver. Wow. That's quick.
It's about 2.5.
Got it. That's really cool. That's much, much faster. Well, we've been talking about trigeminal neuralgia and talked about how facial pain hurts so much in those scenarios and how we can do things to change that. We also know that there are different experiences that can cause inflammation in the nervous system. There can be traumatic experiences. And one of the most important things we feel we can do with our platform here on your weekly checkup is to raise awareness for things. And so we will do we'll do shows dedicated to certain things, but we also, we'll plan ahead, but then as new information surfaces or whatever, we'll bring information as we have it, because we want it to be timely and make sure that the community is safe and protected and aware of things. And so as we close out tonight, because trauma can be such an important aspect in how the nervous system responds, we'll do more shows on that specifically, and we'll warn people ahead of time for that, because some of it can be kind of triggering. And so the last couple minutes of the show tonight, we want to discuss a real life situation that has happened in our community. And so we want to warn listeners that this it can be triggering and traumatic to hear updates like this. So just fair warning, make sure you sign off if hearing any stories about abuse or anything is more than you can handle. Make sure you sign off for that. But Jaden, you have been so brave about your story and things, and so we won't get into that now. But I just want to let people know that we're working on some stuff where you can share your story in an open way to help people. And you have experienced some situations that have affected your nervous system, as we all have, but yours have been a little bit more extreme. And so for the sake of time, we're not able to get into a ton of those details tonight, but you had commented before that anytime you were dealing with high amounts of stress, there's been, a traumatic situation in your recent past, and that has led to some pains in your body that you couldn't really identify, and you were saying it doesn't make any sense. I didn't drop a big weight on that area, but that area hurts or whatever in your body. And so as we're wrapping up tonight, we've talked about facial pain, we've talked about trigeminal neuralgia, but we also know that there can be traumas that happen physically, chemically, emotionally, spiritually, lots of different ways, and that can show up as pain in the body. What has your experience been with getting that addressed in light of your situation that you've dealt with recently? How have you gotten that addressed to deal with pain in your body that wasn't coming from necessarily a physical trauma to any specific area?
Yes. So my situation was very difficult, and I still struggle with it. There is no cure for, I would say, what I went through, and it doesn't go away. But I was getting adjusted, I think 3 times a week during this time period of healing, and that was helping with I would say my like emotional like emotions and figuring out how to deal with trauma.
Yeah, that's huge. We'll do some shows dedicated to that because I think we need to unpack that. Listen, this has been a fantastic show. On behalf of our team in Ann Arbor and our awesome team at WMUZ, we appreciate you spending this time with us. Our number is 866-521-WELL, 866-521-9355. We look forward to being back with you next week. Have a wonderful week, and thank you for tuning in.
God bless.
Okay, we are all set. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, to our friends on social, thank you so much for joining. We'll do a little post-show thank you here before we sign off. So we're done on the radio show, and want to thank you guys for tuning in. So thank you for that. We'll be back next week. You can also leave comments and questions on here on social, and we'll be sure to address those. So we'll see you back here next week, and tell your friends, and we appreciate you tuning in. Have a great night. God bless you.